In the movie business, there are always a few big budget flops each year. This year, it looks like the movie Amsterdam takes the cake. The movie's already lost nearly $100 million, and it's not even close to recovering production costs. This is going to be a huge loss for the studio, and is going to have ripple effects throughout Hollywood. Without any further delay, let's get into the video. First things first, the failure of the big production movie Amsterdam. David O. Russell's latest film, Amsterdam, was released this weekend, and the movie's box office receipts were not up to studio expectation. Despite a star-studded cast featuring Christian Bale, Margot, Robbie, John David Washington, Taylor Swift, and Anya Taylor-Joy. Sadly, the movie could only gross $6.5 million at the US box office. The movie was only good enough for third place at the box office overall, even though a similar movie, Smile, generated 3 times it in its second weekend, was made with less than half the budget. The studio still hadn't seen the complete financial gains and losses, but the early estimates of potential losses are staggering. Deadline completed an extensive write-up and projected that the movie could lose $100 million. Apparently, the movie's production budget was $80 million, and an additional $70 million was reportedly spent on marketing. That adds up to a lot for a movie that is only made for the adult audience. It was always going to be an uphill battle to get back to that figure, but there is a big difference between unintentionally falling short and what exactly led to the problem. So, what's the real reason? No single factor can completely be blamed for the losses, however, a number of them definitely add up for them. Next up, we have the first reason that prompted its failure, the beforehand reviews. The movie doesn't really seem to be great, we should just be honest. Amsterdam seems a bit chaotic, and this is said by a wider audience that enjoys messy films. Such movies require you to have an open mind or accept the maddening messes, but Amsterdam spends far too much time wandering its flimsy plot across difficult terrains and not spending much time in knowing any of the character. The movie was expected to be great, but looking at Rotten Tomatoes, the movie currently has an average score of around 33, which is very low, even for a movie that is made by such big names. However, if you're a fan of the historic 1930s era and a thriller plus comedy genre fascinates you, then Amsterdam could have been a good choice for you. The expectations were great, however, the ratings by the critics are very low and the word of mouth is not great at all. This has led to the audience losing interest in not wasting their time and money on it. Moving on is a big budget problem that could probably not be handled. Amsterdam reportedly had a total budget of around $150 million, which included both production and marketing. The estimated revenue on the opening weekend was $15 million, but due to a bland plot and only 33% score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a 60% audience score through audience voting, the movie ended up making only $6.5 million. Since around $70 million was spent on marketing the movie, which is an enormous figure, the movie failed to impress the adult audience. The figures become impossible to salvage, with a probable loss of $100 million expected, because the final revenue is projected to be around $35 million worldwide. Moreover, a high budget for marketing was not the only issue. The movie initially had a production budget of $50 million, but unfortunately, like every other industry, which was affected by COVID, Amsterdam also faced concerns, and the shooting was shifting from Boston to Los Angeles. Moving to Los Angeles exponentially increased the budget to $80 million, as the laws of California added a multi-million-dollar tax credit. Unfortunately, the box office has not been able to properly recover from the impacts of COVID, and compared to 2019, it is still around 30% down. This is definitely one of the major reasons that Amsterdam could not make an impact, but nevertheless, if the plot would have been written better, then perhaps the audience might have been interested in visiting the cinema for it. Moreover, the frustrating plot evident from the trailer also held the audience back from seeing it in cinemas. The most annoying problem with Amsterdam is its dragging scenes. Many other subplots could have added more contrast and forced the plot to advance at a more engrossing rate. The usual relations add up to the bizarre storyline. The comedy should have given respite from the usual rhythm of information being tossed around to progress the plot. However, it completely failed in this respect. Moreover, regardless of your own interpretations of the murder mystery, the development of the plot is so obvious that it's easy to feel stupid for not figuring it out initially. Such a plot was not able to grasp the audience's attention and lost their interest right after the release of its trailer. This is one of the reasons Amsterdam didn't get great reviews from critics, which may have caused some people to skip seeing it in theaters. Finally, we have poor marketing strategies that might not have allowed the movie to reach a wider audience. One of the most important factors that can result in a huge loss for a movie, that's poor marketing. If potential viewers don't even know about about the film, they're not going to go and see it, and if they don't see it, the studio won't make any money off of it. Amsterdam was clearly not marketed well enough. This is shown off by its poor ratings in an adult comedy plus thriller movie, but it's probably didn't reach the audience it was supposed to target. People did show an amazing response to movies like Top Gun Maverick and Spider-Man No Way Home because their marketing strategies were enormous, and they made sure to hype up the news of their release to every single person out there. Disney, being all in the charge, unfortunately could not market the movie properly and live up to the standards of its earlier advertised projects. Consequently, other simultaneously released big-scale movies can also suffer from the failure of such projects. Amsterdam failed at the box office considering the poor ratings and reviews it got from critics, which unfortunately spread like wildfire, since the movie took a long time in production and was directed by Russell, who has been nominated for the Academy Award 5 times. We can deduce that it might have been a worse effect on the audience of other big movies. Since a director with such experience has failed, the audience might generally perceive that the quality of the movies being released alongside Amsterdam would be the same as well, since they are also being premiered after a tough production period that the box office has gone through after COVID. However, it can't be assumed that the other big movies will also fail on the big stage, with the example of Spider-Man No Way Home, which did exceptionally well. Therefore, it comes down to the marketing team and, most importantly, the plot. And if they both are well executed, then the movie can do well, or perhaps not fail as miserably as Amsterdam did. Note that Amsterdam might have overestimated the audience that was willing to watch the 1930s space thriller comedy, and if this is taken into account by other production studios beforehand, then the adverse effects could be prevented and a lot of production costs can be recovered. However, there is a lot that other upscale movies can learn from it. In the wake of a huge move like Amsterdam becoming a failure, it's clear that the big budget movies are a lot to learn from their similar scale counterparts. In recent years, there's been an increase in the number of big budget films that have flopped at the box office. As earlier discussed, one of the main reasons is that these films lose the attention of their audience very soon, as they are unable to meet their expectations. One of the things that big budget films can learn from flop movies is the importance of connecting with an audience on the emotional level. In order to do this, it's important to create characters that audiences can relate to and care about. Additionally, this story must be interesting and engaging to keep viewers interested. Secondly, they need to be more careful when it comes to casting. A movie can have all the special effects in the world, but if the audience doesn't connect with the characters, they're not going to see it. Bigger budget films also need to focus on story. In an era where audience bombarded with choices, they're going to gravitate towards the movies with the strongest plots. Amsterdam could have been a compelling movie, but it lacked focus and its characters were dull. Lastly, there's a famous saying, less is more. This should be the approach of the filmmakers as well. Rather than spending boatloads of money on production, they should keep it as close to the people as they can and work on good advertising strategies. But that's going to be a wrap for this video, my friends. Do you also decide to watch movies after reading reviews? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.